a time when Julian Wyley, a London producer, was selecting designs like this for a new show. Designs of the times, of show business 30 years ago. What kind of day do I remember before I went to Hollywood? Or do you remember, if you too had been on a London stage in the 20s? That morning, sometime in the 20s, Sir Harry Lauder was up early at his home in Scotland. A few golf strokes, a flower for his wife. Sir Harry was taking things easy after a strenuous American tour. That morning, others too were stirring when the dew was on the grass. Like Sydney Fairbrother, collecting the eggs on her chicken farm. A useful sideline with the uncertainties of show business. Mathison Lange already sunning in a deck chair. A new part to commit to memory. And being Mathison Lange, of course, it was with all the reactions. Also taking the morning air, Dame Ellen Terry. And those who created the make-believe for these performers? Well, GBS was always up for the lark. And for Willie Moon, sunrise at Cap Ferrat begins a day's work on, what is it? A Sacred Flame? Who could guess what the great were concocting until it was written and produced? Julian Wyley was at his London office, barely a minute or so after the cleaners had left. A new production entails 1,001 problems to be solved, 1,001 details to be attended to personally, if the whole is to have unity. Preparation, selection, away in a care with money. Attention to detail all along the line, from the first sketches and models to the last touches of the scene painter's brush. Ideas into reality. And Mr. Wyley had his girls to select. Another task that only the producer can do. For so often is quality of showmanship judged by the faces and figures of the chorus. You and you, not you. Mr. Wyley had an eye for them. In such boom days of show business, plenty of activity to be found on the boards of London's West End, even at 10 o'clock in the morning. For instance, over at the Aldwych, a famous team rehearsing for a new farce, even though they already had one playing to packed houses. Tom Walls, Ralph Lyn, Ivan Arnau and others, working up the material of writer Ben Travers. Tons of money, rookery nook, or would it be plunder? Whatever its title, plenty of locked doors, obvious misunderstandings, and a must. Somewhere along the line, the mild, the inoffensive, the ultra-respectable Robertson Hare losing his trousers. The souffle had to have all the proper ingredients. At this hour, Charles B. Cochrane, too, is at work. And what else would he be doing but interviewing one of his potential young ladies? Would this lucky young thing prove to be another Flo Desmond? Not even Cocky could tell at this stage. But he had his hunches and played them. Though Christmas may come only once a year, even in late summer, in Britain, pantomimes are in the mill. Especially if big and spectacular. Jack the Giant Killer or Puss in Boots. Whatever the story, Clarence Mayne must be the principal boy. Mr. Wyley choosing voices. And rejecting them. It takes time, not to mention luck. The Dolly Sisters, stepping through a new routine. The show, the League of Notions perhaps. Work, patience, and then more work and more patience. Nervo and Knox, on the other hand, are having trouble with a coffee stall. But then, whatever they do, they have trouble. Either the management or they themselves are not satisfied with this one. Polish it up or strike it out of the show. But good, bad, or indifferent, it was fun while it lasted. And Lesley Henson is getting well in trim at the hands of a masseur. The rough edges have been knocked off, and he's really down to finer points. Yes, all over theatre land that morning, workouts for the girls, physical jerks, drilling and discipline, hour after hour of what it takes to make a dancer, even if she is only in the second line of the chorus. There's Billy Huston showing Sister Renee some new gag with matches. But whether for stage or private party consumption, who can say? By now, Julian Wyley is working with his principals. Carl Brisson. Now there's a heartthrob for evenings and matinees, but especially matinees. Big musicals have become very much the vogue in the 20s. And when you spoke of musicals, you generally mentioned Josie Collins. What new piece of byplay have we here? Very much off the cuff, one feels, ending as it does with the cast dissolving into laughter. Then after lunch, the charity matinees begin. Violet Lorraine as Barker for a show on behalf of the wounded of World War I, assisted by Lesley Henson. The aim? Well, a full house, of course. In dire need of a late liquid lunch, Billy Bennet has finally managed to raise the ready and now seeks an oasis in a wilderness of drought. Kick-off for the football game. The ladies of show business. And somewhere that afternoon, George Robey would certainly have been well in the forward line. The Prime Minister of Mirth never ceased explaining just what a devotee of the game he was. If, on the other hand, it was summer, the theatrical garden party. Jack Payne provides the wherewithal for the girls. Helena Picard and Cedric Handerick. Harold Huth and others of Fay Compton's Dishonored House, whatever that was, encouraging them to mount the roundabouts and swings, Gabriel Brew. The one and only Tallulah Bankhead. Yes, there you might have seen them all, at the garden party. Or it might have been at the cricket match. J.B. Priestley tosses up with Gladys Cooper. A sedate first innings opens with top hats and John Drinkwater behind the stumps as wicketkeeper. However, there will be many who are taking things easy before the night show, like Billy Merson at his riverside home somewhere near Maidenhead. Taking things easy. And who's this enjoying the sun before curtain up at one of Mr. Coward's shows? Did he ever have another leading lady who could compare with the one and only Gertie Lawrence? Tending her flowers. Sybil Thorndike. Bernard Shaw, being Shaw, is posing for a sculptor. Having already achieved immortality, is the man never satisfied? Playwright, model, and, on this occasion, critic. From the sublime to the ridiculous, brushing up his golf, Harry Tate, and having the usual trouble with all things animate and inanimate. An outburst of pushing hats into the pond. But what are a few hats between friends? But with sunset comes the approach to curtain up. First away is La Thorndyke. And here's wishing her the longest of runs. Now daylight is gone and London lights are bright. Big shows and big names. Together backstage and auditoriums wake to life. At Wyndham's Theatre, Charles Laughton is in his dressing room, setting about the long task of making up for his part in Edgar Wallace's Chicago gangster thriller, On the Spot. "10 minutes, Mr. Laughton." Stalls, circle and boxes filling, all over Theatreland. Behind the safety curtains, last-minute preparations and thrills that never die. The thrill of, "Overture and beginners, please." Mr. Laughton now transformed. Tony Pirelli to the life. "I love Jimmy. Jimmy's a nice boy." All over town, the last props into place, lights, music, and curtain up. A big, lavish musical, this one. Princess Charming, with all the trimmings that go with the fantasy of the Balkans. The lead, George Grossmith, for so long actor, manager, and producer. Later, film producer with Alexander Korda. Ruritania, or its nearest neighbor, in all its glory and with all its endless intrigue. Princes and princesses, loves and hates, save his honor, his love and the state. Or is it his honor or his love or the state? Well, whatever the choice, something has to be sacrificed or there wouldn't be a show. But then it all comes right in the end, if for no other reason than it just has to. I mean, it's in the script. Over at His Majesty's, in James Elroy Flecker's Lyrical Hussein, Henry Anley. Trilby with Lyn Harding as Svengali putting the fluence on Phyllis Nielsen Terry. Simple? At the Aldwych, the misunderstandings are already being well misunderstood. Tom Walls and Ralph Lyn sharing a bed in Thark. Well, not exactly sharing. Elsewhere, a comedy with comedian Joan Gerrard. In complicated troubles with the French police. Oh yes, they always had to be French police. Was the British force too staid for this sort of thing? Jim seems to be very much attached to his girlfriend. Or is it somebody else's wife? A lot of sorting out to do here, one feels sure. And who might this be? Tripping up Edward Chapman. A real treasure to have about the house. As if we didn't recognize the young lady from Rochdale. Our Gracie Fields being somewhat Chaplinesque. Was the show Mr. Tower of London? Could be. The headmaster of Music Hall himself, Will Hay, as always hard-pressed to outwit his bright but unruly pupils. Billy Merson, then Nellie Wallace, and the rest of their acrobatic team, including Nervo and Knox. With such a troupe, something must go wrong, and does. The era of the musicals. From the princes and princesses to old Vienna and student Heidelberg, choruses of ladies-in-waiting, milkmaids, gypsies, or girlfriends of the Paris vagabonds. Incas or red-skinned maidens sweeping around the totem poles of Rosemarie. The costumes and settings might be different, but the plots invariably much the same, whether with the Riffs or the Habsburgs or the wide-headed mustachios of Rio Rita. Spain, Algeria, Mexico, or Gay Paris. But the real innovation of the 20s was the bright, sparkling musical of sophistication, of the house parties, the Riviera and Berkeley Square, slender plots, mere excuses for singing and dancing, interlaced with shining bursts of rich comedy. Top hats and tails. Long before Astaire popularized them in the screen musicals. Steps and business from such as Herbert Munden that held the freshness that only comes with real talent. Hollywood very soon wooed him away. And they were fast shows at that. Quick changes of scene and costume demanding rapid timing and the shedding and donning of clothes at breakneck speed. For those with the most time, the dressing room. For others with but seconds, the stage itself. Systematically, the chorus prepares for the next headlong spurt while the principals do their spots. The principals. Where again such magic as the dancing moods of Jack Buchanan and June? Has anyone since ever been quite so debonair, quite so disarming? How effortless their effort seemed. George Grossmith again. Did I say it was the same night? It couldn't have been, of course, but no matter. A phone call, obviously highly important to the plot, with Renee Huston supplying the distraction. No other course for Mr. Grossmith but to join in. Oh yes, he could dance too. A reluctant baby car. So much the rage just about then, and trying to cope with it and his girlfriend at the same time, Jack Hulbert. Bursts of shining comedy. Lesley Henson on a cruise and dressed for the part. The weather being a trifle warm, he sheds a little. Even amid all the banditry and sweep of Rio Rita, there had to be the lighter moments. This is how Lupino Lane rid himself of a rival. talent? Watch this for a drunk. The performer's name doesn't matter, for his ability and skill were shared by many in those rich days. Well, have we advanced much since then? A leading question, one admits. Yet, whatever the answer, one cannot deny the sweep and showmanship of the 20s. It was a sad era for many, a hard one for others, a gay time for a few, but amid the bright lights, all asked for gaiety, humor, and tuneful music, and no one can deny that they got it. Like most forms of expression, the stage reflects the mood and spirit of the times, and this is what the times were like. Times a little unsure of themselves, but wherever they were going there fast. Serious drama, farce, light-hearted musicals, the 20s held them all. And because many of those who entertained us then do so no longer, the world is a poorer place. Because in their talent, they all believed in that old cliché that there is indeed no business like show business.